Good morning, campers. It's field day. Grab your flashlights and your hatchets. We're going spelunking. Or for you dullards, caving. For the counselors, please mind your assignments. Sarah and Beth, you guys are on snack and water duty. Rebecca and Sam, please double check all the equipment. And Juno, most important job, you're in charge of the map, of course. Everyone else, follow Juno's lead. Remember, all camp rules still apply. Stay close to your counselors. Don't litter. Leave the cave better than you found it. And of course, if you come across a horde of flesh-eating cave people, do not feed them. Seriously. If we lose any more campers, all right, children, let's go have some fun.
Hello, welcome to Bunk 237, horror movie podcast, the fictional summer camp that we made up so we could fight lake monsters and talk horror movies. I'm Tuyet.
And I'm Robin, and our fellow camper / guest today is Meredith Alloway, a filmmaker behind short films like Deep Tissue and Ride, both of which are excellent and you must check out. Thank you for being here with us, Meredith.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very, very excited about this. That's basically just been my whole life, is like sitting around a metaphorical campfire and like talking about horror movies and freaking each other out. So this is just, a day in the life. Happy to be part of it.
We are very excited. I do want to pre-apologize. Is that possible? Is that a thing? If I sound a little off, it is because I am. I've spent the last 48 hours just moving. I'm moving into a new apartment in a new neighborhood, and I feel like super crazy. And so, but I think that works very well with today's movie. We are watching 2005's The Descent, a crazy movie about a crazy woman in a crazy situation. It is directed by Neil Marshall. This is the story of Sarah, a grieving mother, a grieving widow, a young woman who experiences a terrible sudden loss of both her husband and her daughter in a car accident. About a year after this, sort of still reeling and dealing with the trauma, she goes on a girls' trip to sort of, I think, continue to work out these issues with her friends by doing what we all do in these situations, by going into dark caves. And they get into the cave. Now, these are experienced women. They are outdoorsy. They are active. They are, they know what the word spelunking means. And they get into this cave. So this isn't a thing where they are going into a deep unknown. I think that it is initially presented as sort of a coming back for them to sort of deal with things in a physical way that they've already kind of been through. But things take a terrible turn when there's a cave-in after they get into the cave, and they discover, one, that they are not in the cave that they thought they were, and two, they're also being hunted by underground carnivorous humanoid-like predators. And this is The Descent, and they find themselves in a literal and figurative hell. It is the best movie. I love this movie so much. Meredith, what is your relationship to The Descent?
I saw The Descent years ago, and it's very funny revisiting maybe 10 years later, more, and the things that I notice about the female dynamics that I didn't necessarily notice before. I consider myself a grown-ass woman now, and when I saw, I must have been, what is this, 2005 you said?
Yeah, 2005.
So I was, a youngin'. I was still in high school, and I think it was exciting for me to look out with a new lens of how after a moment of trauma, your female friends are really the ones who are there for you. And I saw a lot of other themes I didn't notice before, like when you guys were like, let's talk about The Descent, my first thought was like slasher movie set in cave with like humanoid creature, like who developed those monsters, I want to work with them, you know. And that was sort of like all that I remembered, and I remembered it being like very scary. So it was exciting to come back to it and be like, what are the things I didn't notice before, and what are the things that you know, stuck with me over the years.
I love the layers of the female relationship in this movie. I think initially when Neil Marshall was had conceived this movie, I think he had initially intended like sort of a mixed male and female cast, and then at a certain point kind of pivoted to make an all-female lead. And I think that is fascinating. I think that's a strong move. And I read that he also consulted sort of with a lot of his female friends to sort of get the reactions on sort of how they would react to things in this situation and their relationships with each other. So he did do some sort of like initial research in the sense of at least just like talking to other women while he was writing this, which I thought was really interesting.
The very least he could do.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, but I think it worked in such a great way because they think that the 6 women, I think, are great characterizations of different kinds of female relationships, you know, the sort of the best friends, the younger sister, the older sister, also the sort of secret nemesis, you know, or the sort of the little bit of a rivalry between Sarah and Juno, and then also the serving, and then just like the ride or die best friend in Beth. How did you guys react to that? Like, Robin, you saw this very recently for the first time.
Yeah. Yes.
As a grown-ass woman.
It's one of those movies that has always been on my list and just like wasn't available to stream and wasn't, you know, or like, I don't know. I just never sat down to watch it. So I watched it for the first time last night and I loved it so much that I texted Tuyet just to tell her how much I loved it right after.
I know. I was so excited. It was like, and this is such a, I think, a hilarious girlfriend moment of like all caps, OMG, I love this movie.
And it was, part of it was the fact that it's an all-female cast was fun and cool, but just how badass they were, like all of them were like hanging from the cave roof and then they like literally full on brawled with the crawler creatures. And it was like, it wasn't like they got hit, you know, they hit them once and ran away. It was like full on fist fights with these things that I was like, it wasn't what I expected. It was better. It was very good. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe possibly that it would have felt dated in some way because it came out, you know, 15 years ago at this point, but it really didn't to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, now, like, of course, when I saw this, I wasn't trying to get female-driven movies made. And now that I am, I was looking at it from a completely different perspective, going, okay, like I purposely didn't look up who the filmmaking team was behind it because I just wanted to let the film wash over me for what it was. And as I was watching it, I was like, I know a man wrote this. I can't describe it. There's little microaggression moments that felt slightly masculine and not quite very feminine. That's just like, to me, I don't know, that's kind of what I felt. But then I thought, if it is a man, this is someone that fought to have this be an all-woman cast and fought to portray women in a light that was empowering and badass. And I kept thinking about that. And I was like, whoever made this, and then going back, of course, and like looking up the team, I was like, I really wonder how many hoops, you know, this filmmaking team had to jump through and say, this has to be all women. And this is what we want women doing on screen, betraying each other, slaughtering people. I mean, I found that, like, you know, at a certain point with horror films, it takes a lot for me to just, my filmmaking brain to turn off and let the film wash over me. And I feel like with this, it was a joy to have both brains on because I was enjoying it as a viewer, but also as a filmmaker, just like mad respect getting this movie made.
Absolutely. And I like that. I really appreciated that the women were badass from the beginning of the movie. They didn't have to have a journey where they were like none of them were like weak. You know, I think that is the trope that comes up a lot in horror movies, where it's sort of like a kind of a weak woman who finds herself and then she becomes the final girl or the badass at the end. But all these women like start off as thrill seekers, as women that can like rock climb. Like I think is it Rebecca or Sam when she's rock climbing to put the pitons and the I looked up what these were called, the active crammers. I did look that up because I was like, I wanted to know what it was called. And the little switchy device when she's climbing to put the carabiners so that they could go across a little crevasse. They're called ACDs. They're active cramming devices that secures, in rocks, cracks, or pockets.
They kind of set her up to be like the worrywart kind of like reader book, like let's stick to the trail kind of woman, and then like out of nowhere she's just like I'm gonna do this, and she's just so badass.
I can't even hold myself up. That's like the idea of like holding yourself up with one arm and then like doing this like intense like rock climbing thing. I don't even know, but I love that all of those women were those women from the beginning, but they still continued on this journey where they still like in the course of this hour and a half, 2 hours, that they like were already badass, but they grew to be even more badass and also a little dead. Some of them.
I want to talk about this shot at the beginning and your feelings around it, because I feel like this film does a very good job of visually into like bookend shots. I almost want to know if you guys know what they are, like bookending the emotional journey of the lead. There's two shots that I was like, this is such a smart film in so many ways. It's like visually telling the story of not just like demons, but like this is the story about this woman and trauma. I wonder if you guys know what those shots are.
Are you talking about the birthday scenes with her daughter?
Okay, well, the birthday scenes, I want to unpack because I'm still a little.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. I don't know if these are the shots that you're talking about, but I call them the Final Destination shots.
Oh, yes. They're definitely the Final Destination. I know exactly what shot you're talking about, Robin.
Where her husband and her daughter tragically die when whatever it is, a spear of some kind, goes through the window. And then at the end, when she escapes and she's driving away and she pulls over because she's, just overwhelmed, as one would be. And then that giant logging truck zips by her.
Oh man, I didn't even think about the fact that the logging truck is also from Final Destination.
It's also
I know that first death within the first 5 minutes, which is incredibly. I love when horror movies do that. It is. I think we talk about like horror movies being unrelenting, but this one is just like fucking unrelenting.
It's unrelenting.
I don't know if those were the shots, though.
No, but I also love.
Talking about.
But I also love that wasn't what I was thinking of, and I'm like, oh god, those are also two really amazing looking shots.
Yeah.
No, I was talking about because it feels like an outlier, but it makes sense at the end of the film when she's running in the hospital and she's running and the lights are shutting down. And it's so not of the world. I was curious, like, what you guys felt like the intention was in, like, setting up the story and this kind of, like, almost like sidebar, here's what the rest of the movie is going to be. I just really loved that moment.
I loved it, too, and I felt like it was so different from the rest of the movie, but it didn't feel out of place. And she has those visions of her daughter, and she has these sort of, like, there are these moments where you're meant to question her, what she's seeing, and if it's real. And I was really impressed at how, like, even though it was so different from the rest of the movie, it felt like it fit.
Yeah, I really like I love how much play there was in light and darkness in this movie. And, like, in the hospital scene, like, I like that it's, like, a little hallucinatory. Is that right? Hallucinatory. And, that she's sort of like running away from darkness. I think this whole movie is a constant literal and figurative, like every visual thing happening is a metaphor for what's happening, like, you know, outside and inside of her. And like, for me, I think it was just that constant play of that. And like, she's like running away from darkness, but then also like going further into it as the movie is going. And I thought that that was such a, like a smart, scary way to, and all he's doing is turning on the lights in a hallway or turning them off in a hallway.
I love what you're saying about that, because I didn't, you know, I've said this phrase to a lot of my friends during quarantine, because this is 2020. I've been saying that like the only way out of hell is through misery. And I started, isn't that great? But terrible.
Yeah, it's like, please expand on that.
Well, it started because I was like in it was like a group, sort of like therapy group that I go to. But it was like, I don't even know how to describe it. Everything that we're doing on Zoom is a whole new world. And it's basically like this like wellness center I really love in Manhattan that I normally go and have like one-on-one sessions. Wellness is that's such a random like word to use, but that's kind of like the most generic way to approach it. Anyway, they moved a lot of their like group classes, which range from like, you know, Reiki and crystals and all this like stuff. But that's not what I was going for. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But point is, they did this like group thing, and all these women were on, and it was really powerful. And the therapist was like a guest speaker to the group, and she said that to the group, and it really stuck with me. And I wrote it down because like my feature script that I've been writing and like finishing up during quarantine, that's sort of the journey that the character goes on. And it felt like a very concise way to describe a character journey, especially when you're trying to talk about the project in a concise way. And then it began to apply to like the lives that we're leading. And then yet Here it is again in this film, where I love what you brought up about in the hospital, she is actually running away from darkness because the lights are shutting off behind her, where the bookend shot, the stellar, you know, the light coming through, and we see the bones crawling out. She's crawling out of the darkness to the light. So it does feel sort of like this is a woman who's not going to escape the darkness unless she confronts it.
That's it. That's it.
That's the movie.
That shot stuck with me too, though, because like it's a beautiful movie.
It is a beautiful movie.
Not all horror movies that feature humanoid creatures that live in the earth can say that. But it really is like a pretty artful movie.
The cinematography, like, I mean, the first time I saw it, I was dying. And it is definitely, like, this is a movie you have to watch in the dark. You know, like, it is the best experience.
No, thank you.
In the dark. I shut off all my lights. I made it as dark as possible because it's like, it plays so much with that claustrophobia, with being inside of a cave, and like when the entire screen is dark and there's this tiny little light, and when they're crawling through those things, like you feel like my muscles are tense just talking about it. And I love that they did that all the way from the beginning, because I feel like every single thing from the beginning, from the car accident, is just portents of doom. Just everything is more and more dread. It's sort of like there's the car accident, there's the hospital, there's the dead elk that they're walking across, there's when there's leaving the guidebook behind, you know, there's like and it's like, and as a viewer, you are trained to like look out for this, you know, you're trained to be like, there's the gun in the first act, you know, you're like, these are the things that I'm looking for later. And usually it's like a couple of things, but this is like every scene is just like more and more, like deeper and deeper and deeper into just like the worst dreads. And I watched the time, because I mean watching it on other times, you know, you realize how long it takes for them to get to the movie monster. It's 47 minutes into the movie before you even see the first little like shimmer of a movie monster, and then it's 10 minutes after that is the first attack. So that's like an hour. This movie takes an hour to show you anything. It spends an hour making you scared of something, but you don't know what.
And also making them go deeper and deeper into the earth. So you know that there's no easy way out.
Yeah. I think I really love the scene when they first realize, like right after the cave-in and they're getting into the big fight with Juno, when Juno has to fess up that they are not in the right cave, that there is no rescue, that they don't have a way out and they can't go back. That whole scene with all 6 women like fighting and yelling at each other, but you also know that like their whole world just closed in around them. I think that might be the scariest scene to me, just like the idea of being trapped in the earth.
Well, something in that scene too that stands out that, because I couldn't remember, like I said, I didn't remember the female dynamics. I didn't remember the betrayals. I didn't remember that stuff. But there's a line that I went, ooh, and it scared me where I can't remember, whichever character is the one that, accidentally stabs the chick and then leaves her. And
Juno.
then that comes Juno.
Juno.
Great actress, great performance, but shitty person. What goes around comes around. But she says, one of the other girls says, you're so selfish, la la la. And she's like, we all lost something that day. And I went, this is like, what the fuck? This isn't about you. What did you lose? Did you lose your husband and your daughter? What are you even talking about? And I went, this is a bad gal. This is bad.
I liked that she was bad. That she was bad, and that at the end, they were about to have their like girl moment and make up. Sarah was like, no, thank you. You're a monster. And fucking knifes her in the leg and leaves her there.
Wait, that whole let's just talk about like just Sarah and Juno. Like their whole relationship is kind of built on a lie or built on a false friendship, right? And I think the first time I watched it, I sort of the nod to the fact that Juno was sleeping with Sarah's husband. The first time I watched it, I thought that was, I don't know, I didn't like that. I thought that was a little cheap because it's sort of, I think that to me sort of felt like kind of a male perspective of women sort of like stealing each other's husbands or, sort of that sort of dynamic, and then making them kind of catfight in a way about it, instead of being mad at the husband. It is like that, although like I understood, and towards the end of the movie, I like that they're rivals, and I like that Sarah kills Juno in the end, or at least doesn't kill her, but leaves her for dead in a way. But their relationship, I thought, was such a fascinating relationship in that like you like Juno was the real monster, right? Like she's the actual evil one.
I thought they did it really well because Sarah is sort of painted as like the innocent, protagonist kind of person, and then you sort of slowly figure out that she knew what was going on, right? Like there's that moment where it's just like a look between them, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, oh, she knew the whole time. Or she had some inkling, and whatever Juno's behavior in the caves sort of confirmed it for her. They didn't do the like, let's, hug and make up kind of thing.
No, they did.
Was really
no,
like,
they did not.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It was a well-written character because at every sort of moment you're going, well, what would I do? And I think that I know that I am craving seeing villainous, complex, diverse people on screen, period. And I don't think any of us or anybody else is like asking for like Wonder Woman in every movie. Like I love that.
Right.
But
yeah,
I'm not that, even on my best day.
Right.
So I think that, I really like seeing certain characters like this put in situations where I'm watching and I'm going, well, if I basically accidentally killed my friend, which she does, your friend is I thought she was dead. And so then Juno was like, okay, well, I'm going to get out of here and go save the rest of the people. But then you're like, well, did she know she was dead?
Right.
And you're like,
well. That was a tough scene because Holly gets sort of dragged off by the crawlers. And then Juno jumps in and she starts trying to get Holly back, and she's
trying to play tug of war.
Yeah, trying to play tug of war with them.
Yeah.
And then in that scene, you're rooting for Juno because that's when she's the first one to step up and start fighting them. Uses that pickaxe to to bash their brains in or whatever she's trying to do. And she is like, the adrenaline fueled, gets startled by Beth and then stabs her in the neck by accident. And then I thought it was a weird flip that she would try to save Holly, but then not try to save Beth. And this is within a 5-minute time frame. Like something in her brain
Beth knows her secret.
Yeah, and I don't know what. For me, I'm not sure why that flipped. Like that felt weird to me. Like, was it just like what do you think? Was it the shock that she accidentally stabbed Beth?
I think she probably is doing, and I'm just thinking about this in this moment, like the opposite of what Sarah's doing is like the guilt she felt around accidentally stabbing her friend. She leaves that darkness behind only for it to come back and eat her alive. So I think that just like getting in the mindset of like what the character is doing is like, I can't confront what I've done, so I'm going to make up for it by saving this other friend. But it's like, but you have to confront what's happened, or you can't run away from something like that. And which is why she's complex, because, you're like, well, you have this other, and even at the end when Sarah like stabs her in the leg, I'm like, I kind of wanted her to save her and then just be like, you walk yourself home, got you out of the cave, but you can find your own ride home, like that actually probably would have been, I don't know, maybe like the ending I would have like, would have been extra better.
Yeah.
But again, this is, Sarah gets the charm or whatever. And all she knows, she wasn't there, is that, Juno left her other friend for dead. So that's all that she knows. And so she's reacting also off of adrenaline in that moment. I don't think any of these characters are thinking about empathy when they're battling morphed humans in a cave.
I also think with Juno and Holly, I think at one point she's referred to as like her protege or something. It's a very easy relationship. They are sort of mirror images of each other. They're these sort of like, very adventurous, like kind of risk-taking, people. And then Beth is really sort of tied to Sarah and that whole thing and all that drama. And I wonder if it's sort of like a, Juno was ready to jump in and save herself, in Holly, but couldn't get it together to save Beth, who sort of represents Sarah as well.
Might be too big of a question, but like, what is Sarah's motivation here in this movie? Like, she's sort of going through this really traumatic thing, and then she's trying to get back to her life, and like agrees to go on this trip that she clearly doesn't really want to go on. What's her deal?
This is a good question, because I do think that what is this trauma right at the beginning of losing your husband and child and the birthday candles and all of this have to do with female betrayal and female dynamics and who you can trust as friends. That didn't quite tie together for me. I think that what the film was trying to do, but I'm not sure, is that after, like, your girlfriends are the people that pick you up after you go through something, and they're the people that you rely on. And so here is Sarah, I guess, trying to rebuild those relationships, and then she gets fucked over again. Like, it didn't quite tie together for me, to be quite honest. And I was, I think it's there, but I don't know what you guys feel about that.
I feel like Sarah's whole journey is to prove that she can survive. She's a year after her family's death, she's still struggling, and in the cave she has this like tangible way to like get this energy out and like make physical progress towards survival. And I think that I agree, Meredith. I don't know how that quite squares with all the female relationships and stuff. But for me, she sort of loses it in the caves, and it becomes sort of this like just like crazed person trying to get out of this horrible situation, which I think she was already trying to do, grieving her family. I did read this one article about the movie that I'm interested in what you guys think, because there is a theory that Sarah is the only monster in the cave and that she actually kills all of the women.
I've read this theory. I wondered that because it does that sort of cheap, I shouldn't call it cheap, but that storytelling technique of like making it seem like, is this all a dream? Because, you know, right from the beginning, she has like very split second nightmares about her daughter or, you know, being scared, running through the hospital, etc. And so she's constantly waking up. And then, you know, at the end of the movie, she like is waking up in the car, waking up in the cave, depending on which ending you're seeing. I think there's the idea where it's like she's always kind of playing with the darkness and like hearing sounds, like, you know, especially like when her friends are like, it's just like the light playing tricks on you. It's like the darkness is like making you hear things or whatever. And while I was watching it, I did wonder that. I was, especially the first time I watched it, I was like, are they going to make this a thing where the whole thing's a dream and she was the monster all along? But in the end, I think that it's all real. I think that
I think it's real too. Yeah. One of the things that person brought up in their theory is the dream shots of her daughter blowing out 5 candles for the 5 women in the cave.
That's an interesting
And then I guess
theory.
the very last one, the third vision that she has, it's 6 candles because now she's there also or something. I don't know. I didn't notice that while I was watching it.
Me neither.
That's what they said.
I appreciate the sort of horror, like movie fans that do notice that. I am not looking that hard, but I didn't see that.
I'm wondering what you guys think about Juno being the only character of color in the whole group. And she's sort of this villain.
I've been having these conversations with people a lot lately as I've been like casting some different projects. And I really, like you said, appreciate if unless it is serving the script to have the racial thing be debunking a trope or this or that. Like, I would almost rather have a person of color not be portrayed as the victim again, you know? Like, I thought it was really interesting because, like, yes, I loved that, you know, and honestly, while I was watching it, it wasn't until the end where I thought, oh, she's the only person of color. I was just involved with the characters.
Totally.
Because I thought the characters were so complex, and I appreciated that because it would feel cheap to be like, now we're going to set up that the one person of color in the cast is the villain, you know, or is the victim. I will say that, yeah, I really hope that we're moving into a time where there's not only one person in the cast that's a person of color. Like, let's just say
maybe
that.
2.
Make them all, maybe 2, maybe all of them.
Are we ready for badges?
Let's do it.
Robin, what you got?
So my first badge is the Bechdel Bitches badge because it does pass the Bechdel test.
Yay!
We haven't talked about that. But also, like, there's some real bitches. Namely Juno.
True.
Yeah.
And then just because this moment affected me so much, my last badge is the One Woman Left Behind badge because she fucking knifes her friend in the leg and leaves her there to die. And there are, like you said, so many of them that are converging around Juno at the end.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, she's dead.
Yeah.
She
did.
She did.
Yeah.
She made her bed. She's about to lie. She's about to die in it. About to die in that bed.
Meredith?
Mine aren't going to be as clever or eloquent by any means, and they're more whatever. Here we go. This is absurd, but you know, this is how I feel. A badge for best lighting when there is no light source.
Ooh.
I thought, think
That's
about
very
it.
good.
That is a really good one.
They had to do some creative stuff.
Very.
Yeah.
Which ties into my second badge, which could be it could be the same thing as best gaffer badge. Like, just like straight up.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Best gaffer badge.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all, like, especially in the beginning, I think that this is like after, like, basically the whole sequence of when she's stuck when the cave is closing in And then when they're, she's carabining across the massive, fall, well, whatever. What would you, crevice? I don't know,
Crevasse,
whatever,
yeah,
hole.
crevice. Yes, yeah.
Crevice. Into when they get to the other side. That whole sequence is purely lit by what's on their heads.
Yeah.
It is absolutely nutso. And it deserves all the badges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forever. How fun.
I love it. That's so true.
I was shook. My other badge is the slaughter and spit badge.
Ooh.
Because every time that, I believe it was Sarah or it was one of the other women would slaughter one of the mutants, she would spit on him. And I said, this is a great combo.
I noticed that too. Because I thought that was so interesting because it was just like just kind of weird, but kind of cool. Like you've already killed them and now you're insulting them. Like in a weird old-timey like dueling kind of way. Which
I wonder if that was in the script or the actor. I really feel like it was the actor that said, I'm just going to toss this in there. And the director said, let's make that a character thing.
Totally.
So
it also just feels so like Old West or something, but just so like instinctual to like spit on something that you've just killed that was attacking you. I noticed that and I love that and I love that badge.
Those are my badges. Those are the ones I felt like deserved an award. So that's what I got.
That's amazing. Love it.
I have a creature fear badge to the crawlers.
Nice.
Just for being cool. I just think they're so cool. You know what I mean? Just love it.
They are very
just
cool.
Fucking love them. Great creature fear. I also have the Broken Heart BFF badge. I'm going to give one half to Beth and the other half to Sarah for like basically just like still being like girlfriends in the bathroom looking out for each other. Because like I love that like Beth like in her last breath was like, by the way, Juno's evil. Like took her all of her energy to warn Sarah. And then Sarah in like her sort of like last sort of like not last exertion, but in an exertion of energy, like mercy kills Beth. And that is just like those are fucking
rough.
Girlfriends. If I ever saw,
I love the broken heart charm. Like here, you can keep yours for the next travelers that find your dead skeleton. They'll see this heart and know there were broken female friendships in this cave. That's great.
That's great. That's a great way to end. Meredith, where can we find you on the internet? What's going on? What's new? Can we watch Ride somewhere? Can we watch Deep Tissue somewhere?
Yeah. So I'm not good at Twitter. I'm not good at any social media, but if you must, I'm on Instagram and got all my stuff kind of like loaded up in there. But yeah, so Ride's on Hulu if you want to watch it on the big screen, or it's on YouTube. It's free. It's only like 5.5 minutes, something like that. Super fun about a spin class from hell. I mean, that shit's real. And then Deep Tissue started streaming about a month and a half ago. So it's free on Future of Film is Female, which links to Vimeo. So you can go to Vimeo or to that website, which has a lot of other amazing films by women that I totally love. Shorts, features. They do like Q&As and Zooms and a bunch of fun stuff like that. So those films are out. First Date will be out on Hulu. It's a short. It'll be very fun.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking
this
to
was
us.
awesome.
Great.
Thank you,
Yay.
guys. This was so fun. Talking about creatures and women and dynamics and trauma. Those are my favorite things.
Mine too.
Bunk 237, a horror movie podcast, stars Tuyet and Robin Zlotnick as the final girls of Bunk 237, and Chris Charpentier as camp director Chris. The show is produced by me, Shane Segretti. Our theme song is written and performed by Dan Zlotnick, and our outro music is written and performed by Talene Kali. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and it may be featured on an upcoming episode. Have a suggestion for a movie? Then follow us on Instagram at Bunk237pod and Twitter at Bunk237. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded.